So I've been coming to Celebration Church since I was a baby. My parents were here. Back then it was Christian Life Center, and they pretty much had me, and I was born and I've been here ever since. So now that's 24 and a half years, I think. So I just remember growing up, my parents both would always encourage us that we had to pick God first in everything, because they weren't Christian growing up. They didn't have Christian parents like we were blessed to have. And so every conversation we would have, everything that we would do in life, it was always pushed back towards picking God first. And in their life, they would always share testimonies of how they lived life without God, and how now God has fixed those errors that they did in their life. And so, yeah, I just remember like even a simple thought, back in like year 2 or 3, I remember there was a kid in my class who was picking the biggest readers possible. So the ones with the biggest words, that he could pick any book from the library and that was his homework. And I had to read the ones with the smallest words. And I was kind of angry and a bit jealous and upset that I wasn't as smart as him. And my parents would always point me back towards that it's not the ones with the biggest brain power that can think the biggest or even the smartest people in the world. It's those ones who pick God first that are the smartest people, because God will help direct you. And I just remember so many moments like that where my parents were able to direct us and point us to picking God first in situations. And even just, I think their testimony has become my testimony now, because since they didn't grow up with Christian parents or in Christian homes, I'm able to live a Christian life using their mistakes. And I think that's what thinking about true wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes and not having to do them for yourself. I think growing up through church, a lot of people have these like amazing God moments where it's like, on the 25th of this date at this time, God encountered me and I was forever changed. I don't have a specific one of them. I remember that my life and journey with God, I remember times where Mum and Dad would read us the Bible when I was just a small child, and we would just listen, and I just remember God's presence being there. I remember Friday nights upon Friday nights upon Friday nights being at youth and just being called out and having God moments where you're just crying in worship just because God's doing something in your life. So I don't have a specific moment in time where God was like, you're a Christian now, or I'm like, God, I give you everything. But I think it's been a lifetime from just the like as young as I can remember of loving God and picking God first. One of the most powerful times I remember God speaking to me, and I think this is where my faith went from just like a child faith to actually stepping out and picking God and choosing God first in everything, was it back at the end of year 10. I was trying to decide what subjects I was going to do at school, at the Christian school. And I'd been at the Christian school since kindergarten, but I really felt like God was just stirring my heart. It was a Friday night, and one of the boys that was from Nowra High just was speaking. I kind of just felt a tug from something, and it was saying, why don't you go to Nowra High? And so I started going on a journey. I talked to my parents. They made me write down a pros and cons list about changing. And eventually I had to make the decision to actually go, okay, God, I'm going to follow you and follow what you say will be best. And so I decided that we're going to go to Nowra High. I had to go to a new school, but I was there with a mission from God. And I spent 2 years of my life meeting people like Alan Sterling came into our world just then, in that time. So Alan is still around today, and there's been many people since. And yeah, I was able to take God into Nowra High and do what he wanted. If there's one thing I can leave after all this, I know we've been seeing testimonies of God's healing and God's breakthrough and forgiveness and all this, but I think my life is a testimony of God's goodness and God's faithfulness through the generations. And I've been blessed to have Christian parents, and sometimes people feel like, because I didn't do anything wrong, I don't have God's testimony. But I feel like my testimony is one where God has moved through my parents, he's moving through their kids, and I've been able to be grown up into a Christian household where they've protected me from things that kids don't have to go through. So if I can leave you with one thing is, everyone's got a testimony. Everyone's testimony is powerful, and the best testimonies are people coming to know God and raising kids, raising a new generation in the ways of God. And that's how we're going to change a city, is people fighting for someone, them having a family, that family being changed by God's grace and God's love. And we do that over and over again. Pastor James used to say that that's how you change a city, is you've got to change a family. And once you change a family, that changes the neighborhood, that changes the street, that changes then the city. And our city will be one for God when we all decide to fight for someone, and we do that for generations.